Most people think power is loud. They believe the strongest person is the one who speaks the most, argues the hardest, and always has the final word. But life teaches a different lesson. The woman who remains calm while others lose control, the woman who chooses silence instead of unnecessary battles, often holds the greatest strength in the room. Her silence is not emptiness, it is discipline, it is wisdom. And today, you will discover why silent women are often the most powerful people you will ever meet, and why the world consistently underestimates them. Many people misunderstand silence because they only recognize power when it is loud. They believe confidence must announce itself. They assume strength must always defend itself. They think the person who speaks the most must know the most. But if you observe life carefully, you will notice that reality often moves in the opposite direction. The tallest tree in the forest does not make noise as it grows. The strongest mountain does not argue with the wind. The deepest river does not shout about its depth. True strength has never depended on volume. The same is true for a woman who has learned the discipline of silence. Her silence is not an inability to speak. It is the wisdom to know when words will build and when they will only destroy. She understands that every reaction costs energy, and she refuses to spend that energy carelessly. While others are pulled into endless arguments, unnecessary explanations, and emotional battles, she remains centered. Not because she is indifferent, but because she has discovered that peace is more valuable than being right. There is a difference between silence born from fear and silence born from mastery. Fear hides because it feels powerless. Mastery remains quiet because it no longer feels the need to prove anything. One avoids speaking because it is afraid of judgment. The other chooses not to speak because judgment no longer controls its actions. From the outside, these two forms of silence may appear identical, but internally they are worlds apart. Consider how easily people surrender control of themselves. A single criticism changes their mood. One insulting comment steals their peace for an entire day. Someone ignores their message, and suddenly anxiety begins to grow. They allow strangers, co-workers, family members, and even people who barely know them to control their emotional state. Without realizing it, they hand over the keys to their inner world. A woman who has cultivated silence does something different. Before responding, she pauses. Before reacting, she observes her own mind. She asks herself a simple question: will these words create peace, or will they only create more noise? Most of the time, she discovers that the greatest victory is not winning the argument, but refusing to become the argument. This kind of discipline is difficult because the ego constantly demands expression. The ego wants recognition. It wants the final word. It wants others to admit they were wrong. But wisdom understands something the ego never will. Every unnecessary reaction strengthens the very thing that disturbs you. Every pointless conflict gives your attention to what does not deserve it. Every emotional outburst allows another person to dictate your behavior. The strongest people are not those who can control everyone around them. They are those who remain in control of themselves, regardless of what happens around them. This is why silence becomes such a powerful teacher. It forces you to witness your own emotions instead of immediately obeying them. You begin to notice anger before it becomes harsh words. You recognize pride before it becomes arrogance. You see fear before it turns into panic. In this quiet observation, you develop something that cannot be purchased or borrowed from anyone else: self-mastery. Over time, this discipline changes the way others experience your presence. People realize they cannot manipulate you with guilt, provoke you with insults, or pressure you into emotional decisions. Your calmness becomes your protection. Your restraint becomes your strength. You no longer waste your life trying to convince people of your worth because your character quietly reveals it without needing an explanation. Always remember this: the first person you must learn to lead is yourself. Because the greatest victory is not over another person. It is over your own mind. Once you begin mastering yourself, something remarkable starts to happen. The world that once seemed confusing becomes easier to understand. Not because people have changed, but because your way of observing them has changed. Most individuals move through life speaking far more than they listen. They are eager to express opinions, defend themselves, explain their choices, and make sure they are seen. In doing so, they overlook the countless messages that are never spoken aloud. A silent woman develops the rare ability to notice these messages. People reveal themselves constantly. Their words may be carefully chosen, but their actions, expressions, habits, and timing often tell a much deeper story. Someone may promise loyalty while their behavior quietly points in another direction. Someone may offer compliments while envy hides behind their smile. Another may claim confidence while every action is driven by fear of rejection. None of these truths can be discovered by someone who is only waiting for their turn to speak. They are revealed only to the one who has learned the discipline of quiet observation. Silence creates space, and within that space, perception becomes sharper. You begin noticing the pauses in conversations, the inconsistency between promises and actions, and the subtle changes in people's energy. You recognize who only appears when they need something. You notice who celebrates your success with genuine joy, and who becomes strangely distant when your life begins to improve. These observations are not born from suspicion. They are born from awareness. Many people make the mistake of believing intelligence is measured by how quickly someone can respond. Yet wisdom is often measured by how patiently someone can observe before reaching a conclusion. A calm mind gathers information without rushing to judgment. It allows patterns to reveal themselves naturally. One conversation can be misleading. One action can be misunderstood. But repeated behavior rarely lies. Time exposes what words attempt to hide. This is why silence protects you from manipulation. Those who seek to control others often depend on emotional reactions. They provoke, flatter, criticize, or pressure, hoping you will respond impulsively. The moment you react without awareness, they gain influence over your decisions. But when you remain still, they lose their advantage. They cannot predict you because you are no longer acting from emotion alone. You are acting from understanding. There is also another gift hidden within silence. The more you truly listen, the more people begin to trust you. Human beings long to be heard. They often reveal their deepest fears, dreams, and intentions simply because someone finally gave them the space to speak without interruption. Ironically, the person who speaks the least often learns the most. While others are busy trying to impress the room, the silent observer quietly gathers knowledge that no book could ever teach. Do not confuse observation with judgment. The purpose is not to criticize people or search for flaws. It is to understand reality as it is instead of how you wish it to be. Acceptance begins with clear perception. When you see people honestly, you stop expecting them to become someone they have repeatedly shown they are not. This frees you from unnecessary disappointment and allows you to place your trust where it truly belongs. The woman who listens deeply develops an inner compass that becomes difficult to deceive. She no longer depends solely on beautiful words because she has trained herself to recognize consistency, sincerity, and character. She understands that truth speaks most clearly through actions, and actions are visible only to those who are paying attention. So before you seek to be understood by the world, first become someone who truly understands the world by learning the quiet art of seeing what others never notice. When you begin to see people clearly, another truth naturally reveals itself. You stop feeling the need to constantly prove your value. This is where many people lose their power without even realizing it. They believe they must always be available, always responding, always explaining themselves, always seeking approval. They fear that if they become quiet, they will be forgotten. But life often rewards the opposite. What is constantly available is rarely appreciated. What is protected, intentional, and grounded naturally gains respect. A silent woman understands that her presence is far more valuable than her constant attention. She does not disappear to create mystery as a game. She is simply no longer driven by the need to be seen. Her life is full because it is rooted within herself rather than in the opinions of others. She has interests that nourish her mind, responsibilities that shape her character, and goals that deserve her energy. Because of this, she is not endlessly searching for someone to notice her. Ironically, this quiet confidence often makes her impossible to ignore. Think about the people who leave the deepest impression on you. Often, they are not the loudest voices in the room. They do not interrupt every conversation or compete for attention. They speak when their words have meaning. When they enter a room, they carry themselves with calm certainty. Their presence is felt before they say anything, because they are comfortable with silence. They do not treat silence as something awkward that must be filled. They allow it to exist naturally, and in doing so, they invite others to become more aware. There is a profound difference between seeking attention and attracting respect. Attention can be gained in an instant. A loud voice, dramatic behavior, or endless self-promotion can certainly make people look in your direction. But respect cannot be demanded. It grows slowly through consistency, integrity, and emotional stability. A woman who does not chase validation begins to radiate these qualities without effort. Others recognize that she is not easily influenced by praise or discouraged by criticism. She remains the same whether she is applauded or overlooked, and this consistency creates trust. Many people feel compelled to explain every decision they make. They defend their boundaries, justify their dreams, and seek permission to live according to their values. Yet every unnecessary explanation quietly sends the message that they require approval before acting. A silent woman understands that not everyone needs access to her reasons. She knows that her peace is not strengthened by convincing those who have already chosen not to understand her. She lets her actions carry the weight that endless words never could. This does not mean becoming distant or cold. True silence is not emotional withdrawal. It is thoughtful presence. When she speaks, she is fully engaged. When she listens, she gives her complete attention. When she chooses to share her thoughts, they come from clarity rather than impulse. This is why people remember her words. They are not buried beneath constant conversation. They arrive with purpose, and because they are rare, they carry greater influence. There is also a quiet confidence in not needing to fill every empty moment. Many people rush to speak because silence makes them uncomfortable. They fear that if they are quiet, others will judge them as weak or uninteresting. But the woman who has mastered herself understands that silence does not diminish her presence. It magnifies it. It communicates that she is secure enough to exist without performing. She is not trying to impress anyone. She is simply being fully herself. As this way of living becomes natural, something beautiful happens. You stop measuring your worth by how much attention you receive and begin measuring it by the quality of your character. Your relationships become more genuine because they are built on authenticity instead of performance. Your confidence becomes steady because it no longer depends on applause. And your presence begins to leave a lasting impression, not because you demanded to be noticed, but because your quiet strength spoke louder than any words ever could. Never confuse being visible with being valuable, for the greatest presence belongs to the one who no longer needs to be seen to know their own worth. When you no longer depend on attention to feel valuable, you begin to understand something even more liberating. Not every battle deserves your participation. This realization changes the way you move through life. You stop reacting to every opinion, every insult, every misunderstanding, and every attempt to pull you into unnecessary conflict. You begin to recognize that one of the greatest forms of strength is the ability to walk away with your peace still intact. There are people who thrive on chaos. They feed on arguments, drama, and emotional reactions. They provoke not because they seek truth, but because they seek control. They know that if they can make you angry, defensive, or emotionally unstable, they have already succeeded. The greatest mistake you can make is believing that every attack requires a response. In reality, many conflicts continue only because someone keeps adding fuel to the fire. A silent woman understands this deeply. She realizes that her energy is one of her most precious resources. Just as a wise person does not waste money on things without value, she refuses to waste emotional energy on conversations that lead nowhere. Every moment spent defending herself against people committed to misunderstanding her is a moment stolen from her own growth. Every hour consumed by resentment is an hour that could have been invested in becoming stronger, wiser, and more peaceful. This does not mean allowing others to disrespect you without boundaries. Silence is not surrender. There are moments when speaking is necessary, when truth must be expressed, and when a clear boundary protects your dignity. But even then, her words are measured rather than explosive. She does not speak from wounded pride. She speaks from clarity. Once the boundary has been established, she does not continue arguing in circles. She understands that some people are not searching for understanding. They are simply searching for someone to fight. Think about how often people carry invisible burdens that have nothing to do with you. Someone may criticize you because they are dissatisfied with themselves. Another may project their insecurity onto your confidence. Someone else may resent your peace because they have never found their own. If you absorb every negative emotion directed toward you, you become a container for problems that were never yours to carry. Silence protects you from accepting emotional burdens that do not belong in your heart. Many people believe strength means winning every argument. Yet, what have they truly won if, after proving themselves right, they lose their peace for the rest of the day? They replay the conversation repeatedly in their mind. They imagine better responses. They seek validation from others. The argument may have ended externally, but internally it continues for hours or even years. This is not victory, this is attachment. The disciplined mind chooses freedom over endless conflict. It asks a different question. Instead of asking, how can I prove them wrong? It asks, is this worthy of my peace? That single question has the power to transform your entire life. Most situations that once demanded your attention suddenly lose their importance. You realize that protecting your inner world is far more valuable than protecting your ego. There is an incredible calm that comes from refusing to carry unnecessary emotional weight. You sleep better because your mind is no longer crowded with imagined debates. You think more clearly because your attention is not divided by endless distractions. Your relationships improve because you stop bringing frustration from one encounter into every other part of your life. Most importantly, you become difficult to manipulate because your emotional balance is no longer determined by the behavior of others. People will misunderstand your silence. Some will mistake it for weakness because they cannot imagine someone choosing peace when revenge seems available. Others will assume you have nothing to say because they measure intelligence by the number of words spoken. Let them think what they wish. Their opinions do not change the truth. The calm person is often the strongest person in the room because they have learned that real power is not in overpowering another human being. It is found in remaining undisturbed when life invites you into unnecessary conflict. Protect your peace with the same commitment that others protect their pride. For the energy you refuse to waste becomes the strength that carries you forward. When you stop wasting your energy on unnecessary battles, you create space for something far more meaningful. That space becomes the foundation for quiet growth. This is where the lives of truly strong women begin to separate from those who are constantly seeking recognition. One is busy trying to appear successful, while the other is becoming successful. One spends precious time convincing the world of her value, while the other quietly builds a life that no explanation could ever equal. The modern world encourages constant visibility. It teaches you to share every achievement, announce every goal, and seek approval before your journey has even begun. But there is a hidden danger in this habit. The more energy you invest in talking about what you will do, the less energy often remains for actually doing it. Words can create the comforting illusion of progress, even when no real progress has been made. This is why quiet growth is so powerful. It keeps your attention where it belongs, on the work itself. A silent woman understands that transformation is rarely dramatic. It happens in the ordinary moments that nobody applauds. It happens when she chooses discipline over distraction. It happens when she wakes up early to improve herself while others are still sleeping. It happens when she reads another page, learns another skill, strengthens her body, calms her mind, and keeps the promises she made to herself. None of these moments receive applause, yet together they create a person whose confidence cannot be shaken because it has been earned. Nature teaches this lesson beautifully. A seed does not break through the soil the day it is planted. For a long